the failure rate was astronomically high. And I was just like, I don't understand here. These people they're incredibly smart people. They're all like attorneys or lawyers or accountants or engineers. Like they have some sort of industry background. They're smart. But the playbook that most people gave them as far as online education business was like, go post on social media 3 times a day. And then, one day when you have thousands of followers where you go viral, then you can launch a course and make millions in your sleep.
You're listening to the 7-Figure Leap podcast. We're here to leverage rich relationships and smart strategies to take your business to the next level. Here's your host, Dustin Riechmann.
Well, welcome back. I'm Dustin Riechmann, your host, and I am really excited for today's episode because I get to interview pretty much one of my best business buddies in the world, John Meese. So you're going to hear his story and how parallel it is to mine. And I think that the culmination of what we've been doing the past 18 months together is going to basically be magical for anyone listening in. And I think you're going to get a ton of insights and learn a ton from someone I've learned a ton from myself. So John, welcome.
Well, thank you, Dustin. Glad to be here, and I'm grateful for the introduction. And yes, you are also one of my best business buddies. I enjoy our business chats. It's good to share, like, not just business chats, but life chats with each other. It's important to have other entrepreneurs you can lean on along the way, because most people don't get it. It's like, we're weird, this thing we do on the internet. But yeah, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, very exciting. So I would just love to let people into your world to kick things off. We're going to obviously talk about what you offer and some of the specifics about things you've learned and things you have coming up. But just to give us a foundation, what do you do on this wacky internet journey that you're on?
Yeah, so thank you. What I do is I help smart professionals turn their wisdom into wealth by building a thriving online education business. And usually by that, I mean, like, it's a combo of courses, group coaching programs, masterminds, books. It's all those things and how they fit together into the online education industry. And that's something that in some capacity, I've been doing that for about a decade, but really hit a stride the last couple of years. And that's been fun. So the author of a couple of books, working on my third. So the author of Survive and Thrive, How to Build a Profitable Business in Any Economy, including this one, and then Always Be Teaching, 50 Illustrated Insights on How to Grow Your Business by Creating Content Online. So that's a bit about me and what I do. Where do you want to go from there?
Well, I never show this because it's completely irrelevant to everything I do, but I'm also an author of a marriage book. I'm in a mastermind group and someone needed this book or wanted this book as a fun resource. So I happen to have it sitting here because I was going to ship it out. But yeah, that's great.
I have a copy of that book. I think it might actually still be in Puerto Rico. I'm not in Tennessee where I am right now, but I do have a copy of your book.
Yeah. So I think it'd be fun to just talk about our journeys here a little bit. Because I want to dig into why you do what you do and your journey to get here specifically into the impact you're making right now in the world. But John and I met, as I recall, in a mastermind probably about 18 months ago at this point. And then I think you're the only person I can say this. I think I've been in all of your programs. I think you've been in all of mine since that time, right? Like, we invest in each other's education products and mastermind experiences because they're really good, right? So I fully endorse John's work, and he's had a big impact on my own 7-figure leap. And what I talked about in my introductory episode, if anyone missed that, the 7-figure leap, of course, applies to 7 figures of income. But before you have 7 figures of income, you're going to have 7 figures of impact. And John's been a big part of helping me get clarity and put the right programs in place so I can have that impact in the world and start to enjoy, of course, the income that comes with that. So, so that's a little inside baseball into our journeys together. But I think that I know a lot of things here, but I need to make sure that I don't make false assumptions on what the audience would know. So I'd love to know, John, in your own words, like, why? Like, you mentioned very eloquently what you do and who you do it for, but why do you think that is? Is that part of your own story? Is it part of your values as a man? Like, what drives John Meese?
Okay, I could tell you like the generic answer, but I want to tell you a real specific person, because I'm going to tell you a specific person. There's a guy named Mike Lardy who followed me for years in the work that I've done in the past. Like from different business models, different memberships, different books, that kind of stuff. He's a super fan, and he built his own business. And he's clinically and medically diagnosed as bipolar, and that's been really difficult to be like fully functioning in the professional world with an extreme case of bipolar disorder. So he started this blog and this podcast called Bipolar Now, where he just built this tribe of thousands of people following him on his story of just learning how to, teaching other people and interviewing experts and teaching people how to essentially how to function with bipolar disorder, like in the professional world. And this is something that like I don't have to deal with. And so like I don't know that much about it, but the more I learned about it from him, it just was jarring to think about like the fact that there are people who are desperate for this help, where he had figured out a pattern and a system and a path that worked well for him. And he had all these people that he was helping. And he had, and he told me one day, I checked in on him. And I was like, hey, you've been doing the podcast for about 3 years. How's it going? And he was like, honestly, John, I'm shutting it down. And I said, what? And he said, my email box is overflowing and my desk is covered with thank you notes from people whose lives I've changed. I have multiple handwritten notes from people that said, I was going to take my life, and the resources you gave me hope. And there is no greater impact any one of us can ask for. Like that's beyond any standard of impact of like someone just really they saved their life because of it. He said, but it doesn't make enough money to pay the bills. Yeah. And so like, you understand, like, and so he said, like, he's like, I'm burnt out, John. It doesn't make enough money to pay the bills. The thank you letters are nice, but they don't pay my mortgage. And so he shut it down and joined a startup. I think of that all the time because what that shows is that the standard playbook out there for how to build an online education business is broken. It does not have a direct tie between impact and income. And that there are many well-meaning people, incredibly smart, wise people all over the planet that have incredible insight and wisdom, that because they're not able to get the income they need to fund their lifestyle with their online education business, they burn out or they go broke and they give up. And many other people are then left grasping in the dark. So that's why I do what I do. I mean, that's the real answer, Dustin. If you don't want like the textbook answer. Yeah.
That's amazing. What an incredible story. It had so many thoughts flying out of my head of like, yeah, kind of either parallel examples or, my wife's a special education teacher. So it's a good thing I make a good income because she is severely underpaid and she purely does what she does out of, just the draw and the passion to help these individual kids. Right. And so I love that. And so you're in the way I would summarize what I heard there is like, you're empowering people who have really deep, impactful expertise to make a successful business out of it. So they have the vehicle by which to have their impact in the world. So you're impacting the impactors, I guess, right?
Yeah, no, I get to teach the teachers, which is pretty cool because the more that each of them grows their business, I mean, like you, Dustin, like the more you grow your business, the more I like have a small part in helping you do that. Every single one of your students, I get excited about the success of your students. I get excited about like Jill Savage, who's one of my clients who this year, not directly because of the work I did, but because the work I did, no, it's related. Because the work that I did to help her launch a coaching certification program, then when her and her husband were in Uganda coaching 1,000 Ugandan pastors and their spouses on how to become marriage mentors in their community, they were able to leverage all of the content they'd already created for their group coaching program that I helped them with. They were able to create a program just for Ugandan ministers that allows them to get the same level of impact at a reduced rate the reduced rate's not the cool part. It's the cool part of thinking about, wow, Uganda is a country that's going through the shift right now where they've not respected marriage, that it's pretty typical for the guy to have a couple of girls on the side, and that destroys families. They're going in there and planted the seed with 1,000 pastors and their spouses to change 1,000 church communities, which will have an impact on tens of thousands of people in right now, hundreds of thousands or millions over the next years, decades. Yeah, so I love what I do because like that's what I do. It's like I get to I just teach like, yeah, okay, sure, I teach like digital marketing and sales strategies, but it's like, yeah, but that's what's possible.
Right. And I think also, and I can say this because I'm in your mastermind, and again, you're in my mastermind too. When you're working with ambitious people who have something to teach and they have this calling that they have on their life, and that could be business, relationships. We always talk about health, wealth, relationships, right? The three big buckets. If you think of any of those, though, there are absolutely examples of people having this like 7-figure impact in that. And so I would love to know a little bit, maybe a snapshot of your business today. So like you talked about who you serve, a few great examples of it, why, and I would love to just kind of like open up the kimono a little bit, let people see what your business structure looks like, because I know you've had a 7-figure impact, and one of your things that you teach is a 7-figure school, right? So again, the alignment here is strong. But yeah, give us an idea of just what your business is like today. What are your main offers, and how do you structure that? And then we'll get into more like the future.
Yeah, I'll pull back the curtain for sure. The kimono, I don't know. That's a little vulnerable, Dustin, but I'll pull back the curtain. No, yeah, so let me think of the best place to talk about this. I mean, I'm an author. And so like the seed of everything I do is definitely books. And so currently I'm working on my third book, which is called Sell Your Smarts, which is the same title of my newsletter. And that book will be out in early 2024, which is crazy to say 2024. But like, as you and I are talking, anybody's watching the video can see the Christmas tree in the background.
Yeah,
we're talking right before.
A very good job of keeping this evergreen, right? So
no, well, it is evergreen. It's a Christmas tree. Yeah, yeah. So that book. Here's how my business works. I write a free weekly newsletter, and I have a free email like crash course that goes in a weekly newsletter that's called Sell Your Smarts, and that is something that each article that I write for the newsletter is actually part of my next book. And so here's how this works: is I plan a book, I reverse engineer all my newsletter content to be each week I'm writing a piece of the book. It becomes a book. The book becomes a masterclass. The masterclass becomes a membership, which becomes a group coaching program, which becomes a mastermind group. So that's kind of the strategy that I honestly like. Some version of that is usually what I teach to my clients, but it's also what I practice too. So right now, what that looks like is I have a program. My flagship program, my accelerator program, my 6-figure flagship accelerator program, where I help 10 clients at a time work with me directly over a period of 10 weeks to create and sell their own flagship program, like a group coaching program, so they can get to the point where they're earning 6 figures or $10,000 a month from their own flagship product to fund their lifestyle, so that they can create time to create the book and the course and the membership. So that's something that I really focus on, is selling the flagship product first, the high ticket product first, which is typically group coaching. And so you asked about 7-figure impact this year, and you were a major contributor to this. This year, we crossed a point where my clients generated more than $1 million specifically from group coaching programs. That's a 7-figure. That's a real 7-figure impact. Like, no, you're
set you up perfect for that, because I wasn't even thinking of that. But yeah, I mean, in the type of business you're running, because you're helping people grow businesses, the way to keep score is revenue, right? So you can very directly say, yeah, like they've literally had 7 figures of revenue from group coaching programs this calendar year. And so, yeah, that's a great example of when I say a 7-figure impact. Now, there are parallels for, people that aren't running your type of business in health or relationships, where it still has a 7-figure value cumulatively in the group coaching or whatever program you're running. But it's awesome that you're able to like literally tally it up as a number. That's really cool.
Yeah. Well, I would say Jill Savage also had a 7-figure impact this year with the work that her and Mark did in Uganda alone, like let alone the rest of their business, where it's like, man, can you imagine how many nonprofits or government organizations, how many millions they would have to spend to try to change an entire culture, where they got paid to coach 1,000 pastors and their wives for a week, and then that's going to have this untold impact. So, yeah. So yes, you're right. In my case, I can actually like trace it to the dollars. Sometimes you have to get a little more creative there, but the 7-figure impact is still there. So then as far as product wise, I do have a private 7-figure school mastermind, which you were a part of, as is Jill Savage, who I mentioned earlier. And then I'm currently in the process of rolling out a new membership program I'm really excited about, which you know about. This is called Sold Out Coach Club, which doesn't really officially exist yet, but since I pulled back the curtain, I'll tell you.
Well, that's awesome. I want to. One of the things I want people to hear in your teaching, I mean, obviously it's very structured, right? I love the idea that you basically reverse engineer and then write a book bit by bit as weekly newsletter content, and then it becomes the book, and then the book becomes the core foundational content for the other programs. Like that part's amazing. But let's talk a little bit about the 7-figure school concept and the 3 main products. You are living this by example. Like you have your own, I have my own, and I'm happy to talk about too. But I would love to just break it down for people. When you say 7-figure school, what does that mean? And what are the component parts that people really want to build up over time?
Yeah, so quick backstory on this, because where this came from was that I had the privilege to work behind the scenes in many different online education companies, most of which were earning between $2 to $20 million a year in revenue. And 80% of that revenue typically came from 3 core products. Now, that was really fascinating and interesting. And then along the way, I got a chance to lead a membership site for a guy named Michael Hyatt called Platform University, where it was a multi-million-dollar membership where my job was to run that, but also to help smart professionals build personal brands online, not too dramatically different from what I do now. And the failure rate was astronomically high. And I was just like, I don't understand here. These people they're incredibly smart people. They're all like attorneys or lawyers or accountants or engineers. Like they have some sort of industry background. They're smart. But the playbook that most people gave them as far as online education business was like, go post on social media 3 times a day. And then, one day when you have thousands of followers where you go viral, then you can launch a course and make millions in your sleep. And I mean, that's not exactly the playbook, but that's a summary version.
Pretty close, yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't working. I mean, like we had a few case studies, but the majority of people were not getting that kind of success. So then I kind of looked at all these different experiences I had, and I reverse engineered that and said, well, yeah, most of these existing 7-figure schools, online education business led by one expert with multiple products, they were making the majority of the revenue from a flagship product. And by that, I mean a high-priced, all-in transformational program. Could be a group coaching program, could be a mastermind, could be a live event or a certification program, but that's where the majority of the revenue was. And then I realized, wait a minute, why don't we just build that first? Right? Like, I mean, everyone's out here dying death by 1,000 ebooks where they're just like trying to build their business out the back of a $7 ebook or a $47 course. And you sell 1,000 of them, you've made $7,000 and you're burnt out and you're broke, just like Mike Lardy, and you quit. And that's not okay. And so, especially when you're talking about, if you're not a 17-year-old influencer, if you're like, you have experience in your industry, you have decades of experience under your belt and legitimate wisdom to share, knowledge and experience, well, then you probably have a lot of other demands on your time, whether it's family or work or profession. You're looking at, how do I build an online education business while I still have other full-time commitments? So then this kind of gets into the 7-figure school model, which is build a flagship product first. So the goal is to get this flagship product to 6 figures very quickly. And that's something you can do in just an hour a day, honestly. And then once you've got that, now you can start to buy back your time from other things. Now you can add a gateway product. So that's the second of the product category. The gateway product is a book or a course or a workshop, but it's designed not to create cash, but to create customers. Because once someone buys a product from you, they're 5 times more likely to buy something else. So you're using the book or the course or the workshop to get customers in, but every single dollar you make from that is going right back into sales and marketing to build your customer list. So that then finally, well, this whole time you're scaling your flagship product, finally, the third product category you launch is a membership that has recurring revenue attached to it. And now with those 3 core products, that's all you need to generate $1 million a year in revenue as an online creator or teacher or educator. So that's the core model, is to build a 7-figure school off of a flagship product, a gateway product, and a membership product.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. It's the model that I've adopted, probably in no small part because of the proximity I have to John, and I was in his accelerator, I guess a year ago, right? So I had launched my flagship. I was running the first cohort of it while I was in his group. His group really helped me refine it, make it more scalable, I guess you could say, and more sellable. And so, yeah, since then I've sold out every group. I'm currently filling my 6th cohort, and so one of the things I want to be on this podcast is extremely transparent. And so again, if people didn't watch or listen to the very first episode where I was interviewed by Cassie Shea and really got into my story, I'll talk real numbers and I'll talk, like the real on business. And so just to give people an idea though, so I started with my flagship program. Mine's called the Podcast Profits Accelerator. It's a 90-day program that uses podcast guesting to add 6 figures of revenue to your business. And that's when I say cohorts, groups, that's mine. And then I've had various forms of gateway products. The real emphasis for me in the new year is building out my gateway product suite just to be more approachable to a broader audience. But to date, what I've done is mostly like live workshops, either on podcast guesting or StoryBrand and clear messaging and marketing using StoryBrand. Those have been my gateway products. And then my current membership is the 7-Figure Leap Mastermind, which is a private mastermind that's only available to people that graduate my accelerator and is currently full. But it is a wonderful source of monthly continuous revenue, monthly or yearly. So I've used this model. I'm still building parts of it and perfecting. But this year, in 2023, as we record this, I hit over $500,000 in revenue. And my 7-figure school roadmap or playbook that I've developed with John shows me very clearly how to get to 7 as a single solopreneur expert-led business. So I'm living proof that what John's teaching works, and I'm in the middle of it effectively 1 year into working with him.
Yeah. Well, and I love that, Dustin, because honestly, I'll tell you where most people go wrong on this is they hear everything I just said. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. So go launch a Flagship membership and gateway tomorrow. And that's what they do. And I was like, no, Flagship first, get to 6 figures. And then now you definitely took it a little bit further where you said Flagship of 6 figures per quarter, right? And I was like, well, I just meant like per year, but well done. But I do think, I love that what you've done is just like kept focused on it, because the reality is selling a high ticket product, it's uncomfortable because you have to like learn how to like talk to people. I mean, because honestly, like a part of it is a live sales process. There are plenty of selling and scale strategies you can do, but at some point when you're selling a product that's $10,000 or even $2,000, you're going to have a conversation with someone and you're opening yourself up to rejection. It's much easier to send emails or post on social media to try to sell courses or books where you don't actually have to talk to anybody. And so if they don't buy it, it doesn't feel personal. And so it's actually like the psychology of selling a flagship product is honestly the hardest part, where I see people, they start to sell it and they're like, oh, this is hard. And then they start selling like books or courses or membership. And then they just get distracted. It's like those things have their place. Like eventually you want all 3 of those in place, multiple gateway products, 1 membership, 1 flagship. But to get there, the sequence is really important. That the flagship funds your lifestyle, the gateway product funds client acquisition, and the membership funds ongoing operations for your company and core operations.
I love it. And I think it's an important point to hit on again, because I see the same thing where it's like, well, it'd be cool if I could charge $10,000 and, or $2,000 or whatever. And I could, that sounds really good for the founder or the creator, the expert who's leading this. And it is. What I found and so filling my first group was very prolonged and interesting. And it forced me to mature and it gave me a better mindset. Like it was a transformational process for me to fill it. And then when I delivered it, though, the point I'm trying to get at is for the client, for the recipient, it was so much better than I was doing one-on-one. Like the transformation I can provide in this accelerator format is so much better, like 10 times better, easy. And so my encouragement for someone listening, if they're like, yeah, I really do want to do this, and we'll talk about how you help people with this specifically, but they feel like, is the juice worth the squeeze? Like this is uncomfortable. It's totally worth pushing through that. It's going to make you a better teacher. It's going to make you a more empathetic person. And on the other side of it, after you deliver it, my experience at least has been, it's like so worth it because of the transformation you can provide people. And then you get the stories like you shared with the bipolar, individual. I posted on my LinkedIn this morning a private, I took their name off, but a private DM from someone. Just they were going through a rough personal time, and they were an accelerator graduate. It was nothing to do with podcast guesting or masterminding or anything. It was a sincere thank you for the transformation that they had in that group. And that's what it's really about, right? If you want to have an impact. And so I think it's well worth people pushing through developing that flagship program for the monetary reasons, because it will free them up and fuel their business, but also because they can just have such a more of a deep impact with their clients. So because they're invested too, right? And it's awesome.
Yes, exactly. Dustin, you and I are both Christians, and I don't want to like bombard anybody with Christianese, but can I share a story that I think would help kind of illustrate this from that connects the dots from a Christianity to a marketing perspective?
It hasn't been released at the time that we're recording this, but in the one I've referenced when we got real deep on my story, I talked about masterminds in the context of Jesus and his apostles. So yes, this is a fair example to go to.
Well, that's kind of essentially what I was going to say, is that like, if you're listening to this, even if you're not a Christian or, don't think much of Jesus, at least look at the success of his marketing campaign, please. Like it's worked for 2,000 years. His model, even though I believe that he knew what he was doing. I believe that he said, like, I want to spread this message to the entire planet. And so naturally, of course, he came on the planet right now in 2024, got me a TikTok account, went viral, and then, no, he didn't do anything. He thought the best way to have an impact on the world was to start with 3 people, and then 12, and then 70, and then 5,000. I think he knew what he was doing. And I'm just trying to copy that, honestly, and apply that to business and say, like, well, hey, wait a minute. What if instead of going straight to the 5,000, we're trying to feed the 5,000 with a $10 book? What if we go first and to the 3 and the 12 and the 70? I mean, like, what if we just work through this? And so that's honestly, like, I claim no originality with what I teach. This is like inspired by that. And I've just formalized it with, swipe copy and marketing strategies, but that's where it comes from.
I love that, because that's actually the take I was taking is more the power of the 12, like being in that group and having that discernment and discipleship and evangelization, like that. I love what you just added to it is the model of how do you spread a message. And the other thing I would say with that is he did that in those ways, and he did that always through story. Right, because the big thing I believe in is the power of story, and that it's really an essential part of marketing. Is just you have to tell compelling stories, which is one of the reasons I love the podcast format so much. So yeah, let's just all be like Jesus and grow our businesses and have a big impact in the world. So
yes,
awesome. So I think we've got a great snapshot of what you're up to today. Do you have sort of a peek into the future? Where do you see your business evolving? What's on the horizon maybe over the next year that you're excited about? I love to always do a little future pacing before we get into the final part of our episode, which will be pure teaching.
Okay, sure. The next thing I'm excited about, 2 things right now that I'm really excited about that are new. One is my new book is coming out. And so I'm very excited about that. Like, that's something that, now that you know how I write my book, it's like, I've been writing this almost all year, basically, like in different capacities. But it's really good, and I'm excited about it. I've already been taking pre-orders for it, and I'm excited to release that book into the world. And then with that, this new membership, honestly, I'm very excited about. It's brand new. It didn't exist a week ago. I already have my first paying customer, so it exists now. So, and it's called Sold Out Coach Club, and it's kind of, it fits into where my business is going, because if you look at my mastermind group, I'm on track to have that program completely sold out, because I'm limiting that to just 12 people. I know why. So I'm limiting my mastermind group to just 12 people, and it's like, okay, and it's invite only. It's like, we're pretty close to that mastermind group being sold out. And then my accelerator program, I only take on 10 clients every quarter. And so it's like, okay, as my business continues to grow, I don't really want to just like making that group bigger. I really want to go deep with the people that are in that program. So what else do I do? Do I just say like, hey, buy my $10 book and then good luck, And I don't really like that answer. So I've been working on this new program, which I'm excited about, which is I'm in the process of rolling that out.
Awesome. That's super exciting. And that will complete, at least the current version, that will complete your 7-figure playbook, right?
Exactly. Yes, it will. Yeah. Yes, it will. And I'll say this, because anybody who's like following along with the 7-figure school model might be like, well, wait a second, where's that mastermind group fit in? So the mastermind group is actually a membership, right? It's recurring revenue. It's a premium membership, and it's got a very clear cap on it. And then Sold Out Coach Club will be a lower priced membership. So I'll essentially have 2 membership products, but my mastermind will be sold out, which is also part of my whole philosophy that inspires membership of like, you should build your business that there's a point where you're sold out, because it reinforces your authority as an expert. It's really good for your mental health and psychology as an entrepreneur to have a point where you're done and you can check out because you hit your goal, instead of always moving the finish line. So, and there's other reasons too. But yeah, that's what I'm excited about. So if you go to sellyoursmartsonline.com/leap, you can get this free crash course. It's essentially some of the things that are going to be in my next book that I'm most excited to share. And so I'm giving it away for free as an email series. And then, if you like that and you decide to order the book, then go for it.
Yeah. So sellyoursmartsonline.com/leap, LEAP, just like the name of the show. Awesome. Yeah, we'll repeat that at the end, but so that's awesome. I love that. I'm sure. Your newsletter is one of like 3 that I read every time I get it. Like, you're very, very high quality newsletter content. Always learn great things. which is not surprising because one of your mantras is always be teaching, right? And
Yes.
so that ties us.
Literally wrote the book on that. So
Hey, you have a book sitting there with that name.
So I got to do it.
The way I like to structure this is, now we get to know John. Hopefully you understand his expertise and what's going on in his own business and what's going on behind the scenes a bit. And then I want to just be really practical here as we close out and probably, the last 10 minutes or so. And that is to extract from John one really smart, exciting business strategy. And then we'll unpack that a bit. So something you guys can go and take to heart and implement in your business on your own journey to your 7-figure leap, right? The 7-figure leap is about relationships and about smart strategies. So relationships are some of the stuff that John's already shared is the power of relationships. I think our relationship, he and I, is a great example of someone he has been a big part of creating a quantum leap in my life, just like Cassie was in the last episode. That's why they're being featured in the earlier episodes of the show. But paired with that, you need smart strategy, right? And John's a great strategist. So John, is there a specific strategy you can kind of present to us here and I can ask you questions about and we can unpack for the audience?
Yeah, I think I want to talk about we haven't talked about sell a flagship product first. So I think it'd be helpful to kind of just make that a little more tactical.
Yeah. Like what is a flagship product and where maybe a specific example of how someone could start that?
Exactly. And I teach I teach like a full day workshop called Group Coach Bootcamp where I'm going to try to summarize that full day workshop in 5 minutes or less. So we'll see how that, but the core of the whole strategy really honestly is, first of all, once you made the commitment to say, okay, I'm going to go straight for the flagship product first, that doesn't just mean you're trying to charge lots of money. It means you're trying to go straight for where's the opportunity where I can have the greatest impact. And so you're going to be identifying your target customer in the situation where you can have the greatest impact to change their life. Because when you're calling somebody to join your flagship product, you're calling them to make an identity shift, not just to get some kind of result in their life, but to literally change who they are. So for that, you need a 10x promise. This, honestly, I teach a lot of sales strategies and tactics for a flagship product. This is the most simple, the most difficult, and the most important, which is to have a 1-sentence promise of what someone gets when they join your flagship product or why they should join. So my 10x promise, if you join my accelerator program, is earn $10,000 or more per month from your own flagship product without paid ads or posting on social media. Yeah. So it's like, when you hear that, you're like, whoa, ideally so if I'm talking to you and I share that and you don't already have that, so I mean, like, Dustin, you already surpassed that milestone, but for someone who hasn't, like, that's a different version of you. It's not just a financial result. It's like, if you imagine that you're making $10,000 more per month from a flagship product, that requires identity shift of who you are as an entrepreneur, as a teacher, what that makes possible for you. I mean, from a single 90-minute meeting on your calendar once a week, that's amazing. So how do you do that functionally? Well, what I recommend for your own program is that once you've identified who you're going to serve, you design a program. This is the wet clay I recommend starting with, but you can definitely mold this how you want, is to start a group coaching program that's 60 days long, that's limited to 5 clients who are meeting once a week, and you're charging $2,000 each. So 5 clients paying you $2,000 for a 60-day program where you're meeting once a week. Now, $2,000 is a meaningful amount of money, because especially when you have 5 people in there, you think that's $10,000. But beyond that, $2,000 in the US, this is my background as an economist coming in the US, $2,000 is the average disposable income that a family has.
Really?
So this is the money that's
great
not
insight, right there.
Yeah. So it's not tied to like the bill, like the groceries or rent or mortgage. This is like, they're thinking about going to Disney or upgrading the house or something. It's like the average American family has $2,000 disposable income. So it's not a random price point. But I find it's big enough that it forces most people to say, like, well, what would I do for $2,000? It's like, okay, well, we gotta go down that path. We gotta get clear on, like, what's the $20,000 problem that you could solve in someone's life for $2,000?
Yeah, to pause there for a second, the 10x promise is it's as simple as it sounds, but some people, so yeah, you're saying a $2,000 product or program should get an ROI for the person receiving it of $20,000, right? And as I unpacked before, if you want to have a 7-figure impact, you need to have basically $100,000. You should receive $100,000 in income for it, right? So if I earn $100,000 and I'm making a 10x impact on my clients, they will have earned 7 figures from it. And if you want to earn 7 figures of income for yourself, you need to have an 8-figure impact. And I think in the same ratios of 10. So I just want to kind of unpack that a little bit.
No, I like that. But I think that I'm sure there's plenty of people listening to this who are like, well, yeah, but if my thing doesn't, I'm not helping make money.
Yes, that was going to be my next question. What if we can't measure it in dollars?
Well, 10x in my mind is more, it's more important that you're saying it's the difference between a 10% improvement and a 10x improvement in someone's life. So if I'm selling you a fitness program and I'm saying like, hey, to make a 10% improvement in your life, buy my gateway product that's going to help you lose 5 pounds in 5 days. You're like, okay, yeah, I could probably lose 5 pounds in 5 days. You're probably going to tell me to drink more water and stop eating dairy. Like literally, I would lose 5 pounds in 5 days if I just did that. But if your program instead is a 10x promise, like go, turn your dad bod into a father figure with 6-pack abs, whoa, that's a different person. That's an identity shift. That's an identity shift. That's like, do I want to be that person on the other side of that? Some real life examples of some clients, like, so Mike Pacquiao has a program that's called, the name is, I was going to say it's called Speech Club, but that doesn't even matter. The 10X promise matters more than the name. His promise is create an unforgettable signature talk that will earn you instant trust with any audience. It's like, yeah, I helped him create that 10X promise, and then I joined his program because it's so good. That promise, I'm like, yeah, I want that. I want to be the guy with an unforgettable signature talk that helps me earn instant trust with any audience. So then we could go into other more examples. Sean Blanc's, his is to, help you run your full-time business working part-time hours. These are all designed to like create this. It's an identity shift is what it's calling you. I mean, even yours, Dustin, where yours, I'm going to paraphrase it, so forgive me, but it's going to, it's essentially that to add six figures in revenue to your business by being a guest on podcasts. Is that pretty close?
Basically, yeah. And that's the program specific promise, right? So my accelerator currently is $10,000 and I'm making a 10X promise, right? You're going to have a $100,000 marketing channel, which, that doesn't go away after a year. So it really is a multiple of that, but $100,000 marketing channel by telling your story on podcasts. And baked into that is an identity shift. Like, yeah, I'm a thought leader. There's value. I have things to teach. I belong on these virtual and eventually real stages. And so so you got to step into that identity to be able to get that result. And so, yeah, but then you think, if you look at my homepage, there's also a bigger brand promise. And I'm looking at it now, so I don't have to paraphrase. We help mission-driven experts build 7-figure brands by telling their story. So it's my program promise is sort of a subset of my big 7-figure leap promise, right?
Yeah, I would call that your core promise is kind of like what your brand stands for. And then each product, every single online education product is a promise for a price. That's all it is. The type of promise changes. Your flagship product needs a 10X promise. Your gateway product should have a 10% promise. Your membership product should have an infinite promise. But for the sake of limiting our time and impact to one with a 10X promise, because that's the one that you have to focus on really first, honestly, of like what this result's going to be. If I could give you a fill in the blank formula for the 10X promise, it's literally, get result without roadblock. Now, you have to kind of work on this for a little while to figure out, okay, what's the result the customer wants in their words, not yours, in their words, and what are the roadblocks they currently see in their way? Now, the good news is you can actually ask people this. But when you have a 10X promise that you want to test to see if people would be interested in, then my favorite way to do this is literally send what I call a 1-10X email, which literally the whole email template, I can tell it to you right now. It's, hey, Dustin, would you be interested in working with me to 10X promise, ? John. And so it's literally saying like, hey, Dustin, would you be interested in working with me to create an unforgettable signature talk that earns you instant trust with any audience? And all you're doing is qualifying desire. This is where a lot of people get lost here and they start saying like, okay, how many hours of coaching is it? How long's the program? How many playbooks or tools or templates do I give them? It's like, no, literally we want to know is like, do they want that? Yes or no? And then all that stuff is secondary.
Yep. I love that. Yeah. And I really like driving with John because we have different frameworks, right? So a lot of times we're achieving the same result. And so early on in my accelerator program, I have this very simple, but ends up being pretty profound workshop we do. It's the before and after state. And it's literally naming how your clients feel, what they have, their status, their average day before they ever meet you. And then if they were able to have the full transformation of the work you do, how would they describe that after state? And then we tie stories to that. And of course it ties back into podcasting, but that identity shift is it, right? Like it's the same thing. It's just poking at it a little bit different way. And sometimes I like to borrow John's frameworks because people get it, with different approaches. But no, that was awesome, man. I think that was a really good summary of why you should do a flagship product first, how it should be structured, how do you get started with it, which is this whole 10x promise. And then once you have a 10x promise, then the price sort of becomes automatic. And if you're not sure where to start, do it for 60 days, do it for $2,000, get 5 people in, and now you've got product market fit, and now you've got a sold out case study, and yeah, all the goodness. Awesome. Well, that was great. That was a perfect first smart strategy for this podcast. So I'm really glad that you were able to unpack that for us. So I know you mentioned your crash course, but maybe repeat that. And if there's anywhere else, I know there's really like nowhere else to find you, right? Because you're purposely not doing social media right now.
Yeah, so you cannot find me on social media. so you could try. Well, no, don't actually, because if you find somebody, they're posing as me, I don't, and I wouldn't even know if that's happening. So that's not an idea, by the way, for anybody. Let me backtrack. You will not find me on social media, but if you go to sellyoursmartsonline.com/leap, LEAP, then you'll get a free crash course from me. It's 100% free. You have to put your email address in, and then I email you resources every day for about a week, and then you get my ongoing newsletter. As Dustin already mentioned, thank you for Dustin for that, by the way. Yeah, if I could quote, I think you said one of the only 3 newsletters I read on a regular basis. So I'm honored. And I actually I invest because my newsletter becomes my book. I have a custom, I pay an illustrator on retainer to illustrate every one of my newsletters. And so it's a whole project. So I think you'll find that valuable because it's all focused on helping you sell your smarts. And so I would start there, and then you can reply to any of those emails. So even though you can't find me on social media, you can still talk to me. And that goes to my real inbox.
Your process sort of requires or infers the value of the newsletter because you're literally taking this and making a book out of it. So it's good content, right? Because it's the literal pieces of a book. So if you want to consume a book a little bit at a time, and I think we all, after hearing John talk for a while here, would want to learn more from him. I think, the newsletter is awesome. So sellyoursmartsonline.com/leap. So we appreciate you doing a custom resource here, or a custom page for the 7-Figure Leap community, John. So this was as fun as I thought it would be, and I'm really, really glad that we were able to carve out time here towards the end of the year. Really looking forward to maybe revisiting this in a year and seeing where we're at on this crazy rocket ship growth that we've both experienced this year. So
sounds like a plan. I'm excited for that. Thank you, Dustin, and keep up the good work.
All right, thanks, sir.